with that merriment, we are now embarking upon a new episode of
Tools and Tea Time
On Tuesdays.
with Tim and Anna.
Yay! Thanks everybody who's here today. We thought we'd start off today. I was on one of my favorite websites and I saw this quote this week from John Muir, the famous naturalist, about autumn. Struck me was that this famous quote about autumn sort of not only applies to this physical season of autumn that we're living through, but kind of the season we're going through as a world, as a country, and I just thought maybe it would mean something to you guys. So you're welcome, as I read the quote here, to either read along with me, or if you prefer, close your eyes and just let it soak into your soul. So John Muir wrote, "In the yellow mist, the rough angles melt on rocks, form lines, tints, reflections, sounds, and all are softened. And although it's the dying time, it is also the color time when faith in the steadfastness of nature is surest. Seeds all have next summer in them. Some of them have thousands of summers, like the sequoia and the cedar. In the holiday array, all go calmly down into the white winter, rejoicing, plainly hopeful, faithful. Everything talking what comes and looking forward to the future, as if piously saying, 'Thy will be done in earth as in heaven.'" And so I was thinking that many people on both sides of the political spectrum are now calling for a new, better world to emerge post-pandemic. Everybody from Pope Francis to Henry Kissinger, from Greta Thunberg to the Brookings Institute. And it may help us as educators to stay focused on the enormous potential that lies in the seeds that you're planting in this dying time, and to ask ourselves how these seeds might bring hope, not just for today, but for years to come for many young people. I think that these seeds are mysterious, much as the disappearance and the reemergence of seasons is sort of mysterious. And so, Anna, do you want to kick off today's episode?
Well, thank you for that, Tim. That was beautiful. So today we have a great new topic, and that is partnering with parents. And after that, oh, yes, now we have some mail. We have some mail from
What?
Rodney. Okay, so Rodney said, "Hey, Tim and Anna, the more I do the remote thing, the more I am realizing that kids need a person on the ground. How are teachers utilizing parents and caretakers well these days, especially when they lack expertise? Sincerely yours, Rodney."
And that leads to our theme, partnering with
Yep.
parents.
That's right, partnering with parents. So that is our week's topic for this week. And we will have a tool highlight with Tim, a super cool book. Liz is our special guest, and then we're going to finish our time together in our community check-in, where we get to talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit better.
Ta-ta, here we go. Okay, so our tool. First of all, a joke, a parent joke, because since many of you are having parent-teacher conferences. All right. This week's tool is from a book called The Distance Learning Playbook. Those lucky teachers in Colorado Springs, some of them are coming to a workshop where they're going to get this for free. I will, Anna, if you think of it, can you copy and paste the link into the minute? Okay, so it's by some people who are really great educators and are leading with a lot of like really good research, evidence-based practices. And part of the distance learning playbook does talk a little bit about students and families, and a tool that they suggested that we're going to give you the link to in the chat is a page from that book. And that page, oh, Liz is not a page from that book. And so the page from this book has to do with like some basic things. You want to have a central location where parents can go to get everything they need. And you know, you may say, well, we're face to face, but you might also want to set up this page because if you go hybrid or if you have to go back to school, then whether they're in school or out of school, there's sort of a central location to find the things. And I think the list of things that he puts here for your page for parents is great. Most of them probably we might have thought of if we were just having back to school night, but I think a couple of them are not. So Anna, thanks for popping that link into the chat. And without any further ado, we're going to introduce today's special guest, which is Liz Nix. And Liz is the middle school science and senior team lead at Knoll Community Arts School here in Denver. And she is tireless. I don't know when the woman sleeps, but she's always trying to figure out the next best thing for her students. And what's greatest about Liz that somehow in the middle of all this hubbub, she keeps her humanity. She's grounded more than once. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Liz Nix.
Hi, thank you, Tim.
Oh, look at all the applause out there.
I see all the clappings. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. So like Tim was saying, I have this really cool opportunity to not only, I teach 6th grade science for my campus, and then I support and I coach our 7th, 8th grade biology, chemistry, and physics teachers at my campus. So I get to go in and see all of the amazing work that they do. I get to steal their ideas as well as give them more ideas. So I've seen a lot of different things in practice. So if anybody has questions and stuff later, I'll hop in small groups. Feel free to ask me anything you got. So I have been trying to struggle with this idea, right? That like, I've got kiddos with some pretty significant needs, whether that be special needs, whether that be language needs, but I'm having this feeling like they're not getting as much out of their education because I cannot sit over their shoulder and guide them and help them the way I'm used to being able to do this level of support, right? So my next thought was then, how do I get their homes without being in their homes? Because right now we have been doing remote. We've started to move hybrid, but now we've been told we're going to stay in remote longer than we had normally expected. So I have started building this partnership with some of the parents, especially the parents of my students with some pretty significant learning needs. This kind of started, honestly, because the parents were there and they interjected, right? Like I'm working in the middle of class, we're trying to do something, and I have a parent that pops over their kid's shoulder. Hi, miss, can you help me? Can you, like, what's my kid supposed to be clicking on right now, right? And they are able to start interacting and help me out there too. I even had a parent of one of my 6th grade ladies that totally participated in science class with us. Like I asked a question, sudden this kiddo unmutes and mom starts talking from over the shoulder, right? But mom is speaking in Spanish. And so I asked my student, I'm like, mom can participate in our class as long as you can help us translate. So then I knew the kiddo was getting information in one language, having to translate it into a completely different language. I know that this kid is understanding the concepts, right? And then my other students would ask questions back to the mom. So for a good 10 minutes of class, we just had this back and forth with one of my kiddos' moms in class. And it was really cool because she brought out this other perspective that hadn't been mentioned yet. She started making connections to her own culture, and my students, I could see them making connections to what she had to say. So it totally turned my class around in that day, and I got much more participation than I was used to seeing, honestly, in this Google Meets realm. Another really cool thing that's come out of the partnerships and stuff is that, like, it's just, I feel like the parents know a lot more this year about how their kid is actually doing at school than in many other years before, right? Like they have this insider knowledge as to, oh, this is really how my kid is reading. This is really how my kid is accessing the work when they're in your class. And so the conversations that I have with parents are much more robust now. The parents are able to come in and say, you know what, when I tried this, I actually saw an improvement here. And we're in this back and forth partnership that I really have not been in since I was a special ed center-based unit teacher and had that relationship with my kids, right? And my parents. So in this general ed world, like, I think this has just opened up a whole new door for the way that we interact with our communities and interact at home. Another fun example, so our previous unit was on the microbiome, and I had the kids creating this scientific argument as to if they thought antibiotics or a fecal transplant would be the best cure for bacterial infection, and they had to provide all the evidence and stuff that we did throughout class. Their culminating project, they had to create a brochure that persuasively argued one side or the other, and they had to have evidence for both sides. They had to support like using evidence and refute the other ideas using evidence. And this kiddo got to the last section of their like graphic organizer where they're preparing their knowledge. And it said, make a personal connection, like a story, or even one they could make up about our fake patient that had this fecal transplant. And the kiddo was totally stumped. She was like, Miss, I don't understand. I don't get what you're trying to ask me. I don't know if I've ever taken antibiotics or not, right? And so I was like trying to explain and stumbling and just making a complete disaster out of trying to answer her question for her. And she goes, wait a second, let me go ask my mom. And she blips off screen and then comes back in a couple minutes later and it's like, my mom told me, and then told me all this beautiful story of the time that she actually took an antibiotic and the kid was able to incorporate it in, right? And like in a normal year, that probably would have never happened. By the time the kiddo got home after my morning class, they would have never remembered to ask about antibiotics or fecal transplants. But the fact that they could do it on the spot got a lot more participation and engagement again. So I just really encourage you to like reach out there. Like some of our special ed paraprofessionals even will be like, hey, is your big brother home? Is your mom home? And we'll ask the kid to ask their family member to come over to help them understand how to navigate from one platform to the next platform, and even be able to give assistance in like how they're answering questions. So I just don't give up, right? You feel that roadblock, reach out to your families. They are there to support, whether you are at home or you are at school. Even just real-time talking, like there was the other day, a young lady was like, my mom has some questions. I'm going to come to your office hours. Okay, all right, cool. Shows up at my office hours, literally takes her computer and walks into the next room and is like, okay, mom, ask your questions, right? And so again, on the spot, I'm there, and kiddo speaks both English and Spanish. Mom speaks primarily Spanish. I speak primarily English with some broken Spanish here and there. So I was able to get this total piece of communication across with using the assistance of my kid, her mom being right there with her so that she could redefine those questions and get really the information that she was looking for. So I don't know, I've seen some extreme negative sides of this having to do distance learning, but then some very positive sides of the fact that students' support networks are in their homes generally with them too.
Cool. Great illustrations. Normally we just go straight to breakout groups, and we have an opportunity, I think, if people wanted to ask Liz specific questions before we do that. Like when she was talking, did things pop up in your mind, either like questions, but wait, how does this work? Or how did you do that? Or questions that, or thought, similar experiences somebody here had before we go to breakout? Feel free to just like, either raise your real hand or click on participants and raise your virtual hand.
Well,
yeah, thanks, Carol. What do you got?
yeah,
in.
I recall, okay, so my background is really alternative. I was a practicing pediatrician for 23 years, and then I retired early and became a secondary science teacher and did that for about 6.5 years, 7 years. But I remember when we'd have parent-teacher conferences, that often teachers I taught with had anxiety about meeting with parents. And what I'm hearing from you, Liz, is that this really, it cuts down the anxiety, maybe because it's a high stress one time in the year or maybe 2 times in the year time to meet them. But for me, it was not uncomfortable because as a pediatrician, what did I do every day? I talked to parents and talked about their kids' health. But I remember my fellow teachers finding that difficult on those parent-teacher nights.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I've got quite a few teachers that I coach that I feel like they're afraid of interacting with some of the parents, right? They're afraid of some type of reaction or consequence or something there. And the way that our administration set up our school this year is that we each have a cohort of kiddos. And we're responsible for checking in on all their attendance, all their grades. We're their main point of contact for parent contact so that parents don't have to hear from the 7 teachers that your kids have every single day while we're trying to figure out this remote world together, right? So like our first thing was we had to make the first connection to tell our parents when school started, to ask them if they had reliable internet, if they had access to a computer, and that like broke the ice right there. And now parents are feeling more and more and more comfortable to, again, pop their heads in. I even was in a class of juniors and one mom came over and kissed her daughter on the head and you could see her be like, ah, you know. And so, but again, like the teacher was like, hi, mom. And it just this piece. And Carol, you're right on the spot. It's about building that community so that you don't have this fear and that you can actually have real conversations about what the kid can and can't do and how we all work as a team to get them there.
Liz, the parents that aren't there, like at home, when you mentioned several stories where a parent popped in because the parent was in the home. Did you feel like that front work that you had to do has had an effect not only with the parents who are at home, but with some of the parents who are not at home?
Yeah, I feel for the parents that are not at home and still trying to help navigate this whole world for their kiddo, right? Like I've got one kiddo whose mom works all the hours of school. And so kid will text mom and say, the link's not working. I'm trying to get in. Mom will text me. I'll text mom. Mom texts kid again. The whole time she's trying to navigate being at work too. So finally I was just like, Mom, does your kiddo have a cell phone of her own? Would you feel comfortable if I just started texting your kiddo directly? And mom was like, go for it. And now this is pretty much the only reason that kiddo comes to class is when I text her before. I was like, hoping to see your face today, right? And yeah. So,
And of course it helps that she knows you'll text her mom if she doesn't text back. Sorry if I interrupted. All right, well, we want to give you guys time to talk, and I know a lot of people aren't always comfortable talking in front of a group of 50 people. So and I don't know how many we have on the call today, but anyway, we'll go to breakout groups right now. And as we go to breakout groups, all you have to do is hit accept when you see that you're being invited. And if possible, could breakout group number 3 not accept, don't accept the invitation, but stay here on the main screen with Liz and Anna and I, because we'd like to record one breakout group for those who are watching later. So when you get the invite, if it says breakout group number 3, please don't accept the invitation, but just stay here. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and go to the breakout groups now. Let's see, I'll set up 6 groups. All right, have fun. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, if Mary Claire, Douglas, and Anna want to go ahead and start a little discussion about your own experience with parents, that'd be great.
I can share first because it's going to be super quick.
Hey, Nolan.
Hey.
Can you pop yourself out of the group? Because we're going to have your group in the main room so that there's something for people watching the recording to hear.
Okay.
Yeah. So all you have to do is leave the room.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks.
And it's just been interesting how some parents are right there next to the kid and some parents kind of like they expect them to just do it on their own, which some of them can do it. So I've just seen a really big, a wide range of how parents are interacting.
Yes, we have seen some wonderful things and some pretty appalling things as well online. well, we have pre-K all the way to 5th grade online, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
We had to send out some etiquette rules for the parents. You know, you can imagine clothing, conversations, TV on at stations that kids probably shouldn't be looking at, and it's all going through the lesson. So, yeah.
Is there a difference in the parents at these different ages, Anna, that what the parent involvement and what form it takes?
Well, we've seen all kinds as well. We've seen parents that just they leave their 2nd grader at home, and we don't know what they're doing. And our district has a process to engage with the parents. But then we've also seen parents that will sit next to the child and will take the test for the child, or do things like that, and engage in kind of helicopter parent type ways. And it's tough. And I think that virtual teachers feel very exposed. That's my feeling. I'm not the teacher, but I would feel that teachers are very exposed. Everything you do is out there for everyone to see. So.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Nolan, you teach high school, right? Have you involved parents at all, or have you found that the high schoolers just kind of do it themselves?
So I guess getting parents involved is like one of the things that I'm working on now. As far as like parent involvement, like at least communication is more just relating attendance, engagement, and like grade. But I don't think like the parents are super involved. So that would be interesting to see, in my setting.
Well, it's kind of an age where kids don't want parents to be that involved anyway, and they're somewhat self-sufficient. So I just wondered if parents were trying to be involved at all, or not much. Yeah. Caitlin, I was gone for a couple of minutes. Did you share out when I was gone?
No, I actually was in group 2, but then nobody else joined the breakout room, so I came back here.
Well, thanks for coming back.
Yes, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, so I'm Caitlin Elliott. I teach in Douglas County. I teach 7th grade science, and we are on a hybrid model right now. So we have 2 cohorts. We see kids face-to-face 2 days a week, and then we see them virtually 3 days a week. 2 of those days are asynchronous, but we're moving to doing it simultaneous. So even on their days they're at home, they'll be logging in to our class, which is a new challenge we're thinking about. And being 7th grade and the beginning of middle school for our district, self-advocacy and doing things on your own is a really big thing that our administration pushes for students, is how do we learn to be more independent in our learning. So parent involvement is everything from what you're seeing where parents are sitting down and taking the test with them, to parents are kind of like, all right, it's your turn now. I'm completely hands off. I'm not going to check in. And here, getting them to call you back or email you back or engage with you is a lot more challenging. Just following through as many times as possible. It's been an interesting year for it too, because parents are very defensive as well, because they're put underneath a lot of stress right now. We had our parent-teacher conferences, and it was interesting to see some parents were like, we're just so thankful for everything that you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then there were other parents that were like, I know you probably wrote this at a 7th grade level, but I feel like I don't understand it. Like, so it's
Right.
How do you everybody's challenge levels, because now you're differentiating for a whole new group of people.
For parents who weren't in 6th grade before they got you. Oh no.
That's the ultimate differentiation level.
Douglas, what were you going to say? You started to say something.
I was just going to ask, building on what something you said, Tim, have any of you teachers experienced students, the student parent relationship, any tension there about like I have a fourth grader who is pretty independent, and he all of a sudden this year, he's in Douglas County, so he's doing the hybrid, and he wants a very clear delineation, unlike what we experienced in March to end the year. There was no problem, but now it's like he wants this very clear delineation between the role of a parent and the role of a teacher, and he doesn't want me looking at his work or giving him any feedback because I'm not the I'm not the teacher. Do any of you have you seen that?
Well, I see that in person when we were back, you know, in our regular lives and teaching. It was like if the parent tried to tell the kid something, you know, and they knew they were saying exactly what I said, but if it came from me, the kid would listen, they would do it more. So yeah, but not online. I haven't had that. I haven't seen that so much.
Sounds like you got an interesting little case study there going yourself, Douglas.
I know, right? It's only coming about because when he's 100% in person, I don't feel like I need to be over his shoulder at all.
Right.
But when he has these asynchronous days, I'm like, I'm not just letting you roam free. Like we need to have a schedule for the day. Like let's plan this out and let me help you.
Seems like it'd be a good carrot for doing his work. Like if you take care of your business, then I don't need to get in your business. But as soon as I know you're not, I'm going to be up in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start bringing everybody back if you guys don't mind. So you'll see people popping into our room now in the next minute.
Thanks a lot for doing this, you guys. I got to run, but it was really nice to just be in a group for a little bit and talk about what we're all going through. It's really helpful.
Right there.
I hope
It
to
was
see you next week.
wonderful, wonderful
Okay,
having
thanks.
you in the group.
Good luck.
Keep on
Thanks,
with the
Rick.
kindergartner.
Okay. Okay, everybody should be coming back into the main room any minute here, and we'll kind of wind this thing up. But yeah, thanks for this breakout group. I so enjoyed listening in and talking with all of you.
All right, you guys. So I think, do we have everybody back, Tim?
Let's see, what number do you see on the screen right now? Let's see.
I see 11.
Okay, 11. Nope, I don't think we might have had some people leave, but let's give it another minute. I'm not sure everybody
Okay.
is back yet. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, looks
There's
like
a-
everybody's back now. Okay, well, everybody, I hope you heard some interesting stories and shared some and got some good advice from people that are working with parents in your breakout group. We appreciate you all being here, but it looks like we've reached the end of the time, my friends. First of all, I want to thank my dear friend and colleague Liz Nix for coming and sharing her expertise. Let's all give her some jazz hands for that. Our episode resources are in the QR. You can see this short URL if you want to jot it down, or in the QR code. And Hugo Valdez, who's been playing Mission Control here today, he's going to be sending that out to all of you in an email tomorrow if you don't want to write it down. But a link to that tiny URL, which has that tool that we featured this week. Also, our recordings are all on the dmns.org website. If you go to the Tools at Tea Time webpage, you'll find our recordings for every episode. The one probably for today will take a day or two to be there, but look for it. And Anna.
And we are very fortunate to have you spend this half an hour with us. We know that you're all very busy and we appreciate your time. We hope that you'll join us next week, because next week we have a very special guest. As you can tell by the last name, I kind of know this guy. Been married to him for 35 years now, but Kevin Marlott will be doing some gamification with us and talking about how gamification can really help with engagement of kids and helping them log in and participate. So that should be a really exciting time for us. That's our grandson, Bo, that he's holding right there.
Ooh, congratulations on that new grandson. Yeah. And Kevin's like a legend in his own right. Like I tell you, we've had several good schools that cooperated with the museum and work, and Kevin's been leading them. And so if you had fun today, please tell your friends to join us and let us know what topics might be useful to you as we move into the future. And until next week, adios, amoebas. Okay. There's the link for those resources. If anybody has questions for Liz or for us, we'll stay on the call after a while. Otherwise, enjoy this lovely fall evening.